Hello from the headquarters of the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. By now, you would have heard of a major undertaking by the ministry to digitize textbooks used by students in secondary institutions. Determined to develop the ideal condition for learning with the use of technology and with an aim of reducing the high cost associated with the purchasing of textbooks, the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology introduces the Antigua and Barbuda Common Digital Education ABCDE. This initiative promotes the delivery of content in e-form and online learning. The key objectives are to equip both learner and instructor with content which aligns with the existing curriculum in a format which can be readily updated and therefore remain current. 2, to provide a platform which enables the customization of learning. And 3, to enable decision makers to have ready access to data to allow for early intervention at various levels. Officials from the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology and the Board of Education have been working overtime to complete the preparation phase of this initiative in time for its launch. Today, we will hear from officials who are directly responsible for the implementation of the Antigua and Barbuda Common Digital Education and also from educators charged with its introduction to students.
It is indeed a very exciting time in education as we look to the integration of technology within the teaching and learning environment. It gives us great opportunity where we can reach each child, where we can make a difference as educators as we seek to propel the future of Antigua and Barbuda forward. First and foremost in education, there are certain components that we have to take into consideration. We have to take infrastructure, we have to take curriculum, we have to consider our professional development, and we must do our measurement and evaluation. One of the very important infrastructural component that we had to consider within this initiative is the availability of the internet. Immediately, we recognize that as it is within our schools, that there is some instability as it relates to the internet access, where we have conversed with the internet provider APU INET in getting fiber into our schools. We celebrate the introduction of fiber optic cable within schools such as the All Saints Secondary and the Princess Margaret School.
The eBooks initiative has Common Stream at a very, very good time because we are cognizant of the fact that the world is going digital. And we do not want our students to be left behind. So having the eBooks will basically put them on par or even further in front of other students within the world. I actually was a part of the process with the eBooks initiative, and one of the things that I want to mention here is that we have had a number of curriculum officers involved in the process, and I need to say involved in the process as far as their subjects are concerned. What has happened is that each curriculum officer involved in the process each one was interviewed and information sought as to where we want the curriculum to go. So it is not just something we just pulled out of the hat, it is something that was thought through, and we have had many contributors to the initiative. We are very, very cognizant of the fact that the curriculum material has to be relevant to Antigua and Barbuda, relevant to the Caribbean, and of course we'll have an injection of what is happening in the world. but more so the relevance to our Antiguan and Barbudan context. And in light of that, the curriculum officers and teachers in the schools who are part of the different subject disciplines have actually come on board to assist in the quality assurance process. So we have had them going through the material. There are times when you will find that there are things that are not Antiguan and Barbudan, that are not regional, that are, So they had to go through the process of removing materials and putting in information that is more relevant. That will happen. Even when we have textbooks, the hard copies of the textbooks, authors will come and they will discuss with the officers, and so they will make adjustments accordingly. The same process has happened with the e-books.
For the most part, teachers are excited about the possibilities of the e-book. In the case of science, the possibilities for video simulations, for interactive simulations, those are very exciting. They add a new dimension to what we are capable of doing in science. It also helps because there are some times when we face difficulties in executing the real activities. The simulations do go a long way towards helping in that regard. So from a science perspective, the interactive capabilities of the e-book pose a very positive prospect for us.
In the olden days where you had a student with a whole bag of books that were just so heavy, books that very quickly, as soon as they're published, would become outdated, we're putting them on a tablet. And when you put them on a tablet, it means that they can be regularly updated as information evolves. What it also means as well is that rather than just reading about photosynthesis, you can see a video, or you can see some form of diagram that comes alive, and so the students can become involved in the process of photosynthesis through that ICT device. Our commitment as the ministry and as the government, and my commitment, is to ensure that through the use of ICTs, learning is no longer a boring, assiduous, taxing exercise, but learning becomes something of what it truly ought to be. Learning should be enjoyable, it should be engaging, and it should be fun. And ICT allows us to turn the science of pedagogy, the content and the process of delivery of information, rather than merely a teacher talks and the student takes note. But ICT becomes the conduit that connects the teachers and the students to the highway of active learning.
Currently, the board spends millions of dollars on the physical textbooks. So initially, for the introduction of the e-books, there is some cost, but in the long run, the benefits will surely outweigh the cost. Since for the physical textbooks, whenever there's a new edition, then that means buying the entire textbook. However, with the e-books, we'll be able to upgrade or just add whatever information that is needed, which would drastically reduce the cost of the textbooks. Also for teachers, the e-books will be able to give them instant information on how well their students are doing, because there'll be quizzes online, so they'll be able to cater to those students who probably are moving ahead, and those that are working a little behind, they'll be able to cater to them. Also, the students that learn visually will have the videos on the e-book, so it won't just be words. And those that learn audio from listening via audio, they will be able to also learn, because it will be incorporated in the e-books. Or those students who learn both ways, so whatever modality of learning these students use, then that will be available to them.
Now, looking at this device, we see students are going to be excited about learning. And this is what 21st century is all about. Bringing the technology, meeting the students where they are because they are digital natives. The excitement really comes when you are able to meet every child where they are by emphasizing differentiated learning. When you can customize learning to every child. So if there's a situation where you would have realized that every learner doesn't work at the same pace, we can then do something about it by using the platform on this device. Thus far, training has been done with our book scheme managers whose roles are going to be rebranded. Training was done with our education officers of the respective subject areas that were digitized. Training has been done with our technical team who will be in charge of all the different technical low-level challenges that we anticipate. And training also was done with our teachers who participated in the quality assurance phase.
This process was very insightful. I found that the information on the ebook in some cases was very simple for secondary school level. However, it would give teachers the opportunity to add content based on the level of students that they are teaching. We all recognize that we now have the level 3 students, and I find that the content that is on the book would be very accommodating to those students, but students who are a little above that level might be a little bored with the content. So the teacher would then have the opportunity now to add content and give students work according to their level of ability. You know, generally we have textbooks, and the textbooks cover information in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, and Guyana. And Antigua data is hardly ever presented. With the ebook, I found that a lot of data was presented that represents information in Antigua and Barbuda, and I found that that is very, very, very good. And so the students now will have a better idea as to what we're speaking to. However, we have to be careful not to be too specific with the data, because remember that we're preparing them for a regional exam, so there must be some regional information included in the text.
Thus far, we have installed and assessed 10 subject areas which are already loaded onto the devices. We will also analyze the hardware functionality and the ability of our technical team to provide quick response. We will evaluate the use of this solution in the teaching and learning environment. This we will do by drawing data from 5 schools: the All Saints Secondary, Glanville Secondary, St. Mary's Secondary, Otto's Comprehensive, and Clare Hall Secondary Schools. We will test the robustness of the platform to determine its ability to manage the information that will be loaded by the tablets. To do this, we have decided to distribute to all public secondary schools, 1st to 4th form, in total 6,500 tablets. We will evaluate the user policy and the user agreement. We will evaluate the distribution and collection process, which will be done at the beginning and the ending of each school year.
We don't want people to think that what we are pushing is that technology is going to take over, and so technology, you know, you just give the students laptops and iPads and whatever other devices, and you just say to them, learn, because that is not what we're about. Students are not going to be learning that way. We are about training our teachers to ensure that they are equipped to using that technology to help to enhance the teaching learning process. And so that is what we do. We have invested already. The ministry has invested heavily in our teachers, and the ministry will continue to invest heavily in our teachers as we ensure that our youngsters are presented with the best possible learning environment so that they could become the best persons that they can be.
As an administrator, I am very much excited about this initiative. My major reason being in that as a nation, when we started computing, we had many persons who thought that it would never have carried through. We're talking about since 1999. And so as we progress, I think this is the next obvious move as a nation. We have laid the foundation in the technology, and so for myself as an individual and as an administrator to the principals, this has to be the next step. Nothing is better than this. We are called upon to manage a resource. We have always managed the nation's resource. We have spoken, we have discussed, we are ready. Yes, there are some challenges. I am not going to sit here and say as managers that we would not experience challenges. But we are ready, willing and able. Like every other challenge, the introduction of new textbooks, that was a challenge. We overcame it. And so we are prepared. We're looking forward to the challenge. We know operational procedures will have to be put in place. We are prepared to be accountable to the nation concerning its human resource, its technology, and first and foremost, the nation's children. And so we welcome it with open arms. We look forward to all the assistance we can get, because at the end of the day, for this thing to be successful, it requires effective, efficient managers who have the capacity and the capability to do so.
So for the teachers there are many who have actually utilized the use of technology, be it Facebook, Edmodo, Google Docs. Now we're making it easier for you. We are giving you a one-stop shop. That is, there is a platform that you can go and you can basically create your test instruments. You are able to disseminate the information to your students. You're able to allow the marking to be done automatically. You're able to go back and visually see how your students are performing. And this is what that basically excites me about this platform that will be on this device. It is an analytical platform. So teachers, once you do your tests and your grades are in, you are able to see your students' performances on a visual setting, be it a graph. And so from that, you're able to see whether or not the items that was tested is fairly done. You're able to see, based on criteria referencing or normal referencing, that you are able to provide what level of intervention needed, or to see if your objectives were realized.
Content of the instruction is placed on devices, placed in the web, placed so they can be easily accessible by students. And teachers must fundamentally be trained on the use of ICTs themselves and to be able to use ICTs in the classroom and in the process of instruction. If this does not occur, what we have done, we have merely created fancy devices, giving them to students who are going to use them for other purposes outside of the delivery of instruction. And that is something that we guard carefully against not repeating.
Learning is not supposed to be laborious undertaking, but learning is supposed to be pleasant, learning is supposed to be fun. And the environment ought to be rich with stimuli so that our students are excited to learn. Technology provides that opportunity.
Well, as you know, for small nations like Antigua and Barbuda, one of our most important resources is our human resource. And in order for us to compete globally, ICT is the way to go.
From my perspective, I don't think we have much choice but to go electronic today. I don't necessarily think that is something that we need to rush to, but I think it is necessary, it's unavoidable, and we will get there eventually. So I am quite interested, quite excited. I am looking further down the road, not just to being able to receive content from external sources, but I do foresee us in the future and in the not too distant future being able to generate our own content, and that for me is the most exciting prospect of this whole endeavor.
I do believe that we need, as educators, as parents, we need to embrace what we have. I know our children are overjoyed at the fact that they will be getting a device with all of their texts. What we need to do as educators, as parents, as caregivers, is to ensure that with anything else, the children take care of the devices, because it will only benefit them in the long run.
In our public secondary school, I am comfortable and I am confident that my 12 principals all come with the capacity and the capability to manage the human resource that will be provided to us.
As is any initiative in project management, there are challenges. But in this initiative, the benefits outweigh the challenges. And so, as the Ministry of Education leads the charge in education, we remain committed. We stay focused as we continue to transform the landscape of education in Antigua and Barbuda.
So there you have it, an analysis of the Antigua and Barbuda Common Digital Education, ABCDE, and the numerous benefits that will be derived from this initiative. Those charged with its implementation have committed themselves to the task at hand in the interest of students across Antigua and Barbuda and for the advancement of education through information communication technology.